Okay, so we're going to multiply polynomials today, and in this case we've got two trinomials that we're multiplying together. I've got this first trinomial and the second trinomial, and the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to multiply one term through this, and then my second term through this, and my third term through this. So I'm going to distribute 3 times. And so I'm going to start by saying I'm going to start with this term here, and I'm going to say I'm going to multiply my 3x squared, and I'm going to multiply it through all this stuff. So I write that down, 7x squared plus x minus 7. And then I'm going to multiply this second term, this negative 2x, and I'm going to multiply that through all this stuff. So I'm going to write that down and say I'm going to get a negative 2x, and I'm going to multiply it through everything here and say I've got 7x squared plus x minus 7. And then I'm going to multiply this positive 1 through all of this stuff. So I'm going to say I'm going to have 1 times 7x squared plus x minus 7. Okay, so I'm just going to distribute 3 times, and then I'm going to combine like terms in the end. So when I'm doing my distribution, I have 2 rules. First, I multiply the coefficients, and the second is I add the powers on like bases. So my coefficients, let's do this in purple. So I'm going to multiply the coefficients of 3 and 7, and that's going to give me 21. And then I'm going to add the powers of 2 and 2, and that's going to give me x to the 4th. Then, so that's this first guy. And then I'm going to do the next one. And what's missing here is that the coefficient should be a 1. The coefficient should be a 1 because this should be written down. It's assumed to be 1, and the power should also be a 1. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to say I am multiplying my 3 times my 1, which gives me 3, and then I'm adding my 2 here and the 1 that needs to be written here, so that's going to give me x to the 3. Then I'm going to multiply to the last term, and I'm multiplying this 3 times this negative 7, and that's going to give me negative 21. And then the only one that has an x in it is the x squared. So I'm going to write down I got this x squared here. All right. Now I'm going to do the red one, and I'll keep that purple. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply the coefficients and add the powers, but this is missing the power, so I'm going to write that down and say this is going to be negative 14, and when I add my 1 and my 2, I'm going to get x to the 3rd. So I multiply this and this. Well, the coefficient's a 1 here, so I'm multiplying negative 2 times 1, which gives me negative 2. And I'm adding the powers. There's a power of 1 here and a power of 1 here. That's going to give me x squared. Okay, so then I'm going to do this again and say I'm multiplying my negative 2 times my negative 7, and that's going to give me positive 14, and this is really just this x to the 1, x to the 1. Okay, the last one, I'm multiplying the 1 times the 7, that gives me 7, and I have an x squared. There is no x's here to add the powers to. And then I'm going to multiply this 1 times this x. This is really a 1x, so it's 1 times 1, which equals positive 1. And I have this x to the 1. And then I'm multiplying this times this, which is going to be 1 times negative 7, which gives me negative 7. Okay. Once I have done my distribution, I need to combine like terms. And what I've done here to combine like terms is I've built this table to sort of help me. And my terms within my polynomial is I have an x to the 4th, I have an x to the 3rd, x squareds, x's, and just numbers. So my table reflects what I have in my answer here, so I can combine like terms. I'm going to start with this 21x to the 4th and say I've got 21 of those. And then I'm going to go to this 3x to the third and say I've got 3x to the thirds and this 21x squared, or negative 21, so I got negative 21x squared. I have negative 14x to the thirds, so this is negative 14 goes here, and negative 2x squared, so negative 2 goes here, and 14 x's, so 14 goes here. Then I'm on my third row, and I say I've got 7x squared, so I've got 7 of these, 1 x's, so 1 there, and negative 7. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to add the columns. So I add, this way. I add everything in this column, everything in this column, everything in this column, and that will keep everything organized. So when I'm done, I'm going to have a 21x to the fourth, because that's in the x to the fourth column. And then I'm going to have negative 14 plus 3 is negative 11. So I'm going to say I've got negative 11x to the thirds. And this right here, I'm looking at adding all this together. So if I have negative 21 and negative 2, that's negative 23. So I'm going to do this over here. I got negative 23 and 7. Well, that's going to be negative 16. So I have negative 16x squared. That's this column here. And then here I have 15x, and here I have negative 7, so this is negative 7. Once I've combined my like terms, I have my answer.